You've recently been given an engineering design project to design a new water bottle.
We have 2 questions for you to begin this process. First of all, who is it that you need to talk to begin the design of the water bottle? And second, how do you begin the engineering design process? Pause the video now and answer these 2 questions.
Let's address the first question, who do you talk to? This model, the user-client-designer triangle, is helpful as a discussion point. We can use this triangle to define the participants in engineering design. The first point of the triangle is the user. The user is any person who might use the device or the design. And example users for a water bottle might be a cyclist, a student, or someone who's bedridden. The second point of the triangle is the client. The client is the sponsor of your project, and they typically have a strong business interest in the outcomes. They might desire an updated solution or an alternative that has a different impact on the environment or considers cost. The third point of the user-client-designer triangle is the designer. This is you, the engineering team, and you bear primary responsibility for solving the engineering problem. It's important to understand that the designer, user, and client are 3 distinct roles, and the designer shouldn't assume the role of the user or the client. For example, if you were designing a water bottle for a cyclist, and you yourself were not a cyclist, you shouldn't assume that you can understand the user's needs. Let's address the second question, how do you start? The engineering design process provides the answer to this question. In the first part of the engineering design process, your goal as a team is to develop a clear understanding of your assignment.
This step is called clarifying the team assignment. In this step, your goal is to speak with the client to better understand the purpose and the scope of your design project. Often when you talk with the client for the first time, it may be insufficient to understand the full extent of the project, and it could require a more extensive conversation. In this conversation, you want to be sure to fully elucidate the motivations, assumptions, and expectations that your client holds. Clients may have many motivations for initiating design projects. There could be a perceived need due to the absence of a product on the market or a deficiency of an existing product on the market. There could be a new technology which has ushered in an opportunity for this new project. There could be a perceived business opportunity which would make it worthwhile to explore this project. Or finally, your client may just want to solve a problem. When you speak with your client, it's important to identify some of the assumptions that they're bringing to the table. Some typical assumptions might be the following. First, your client might pre-assume a solution or what it looks like. Second, they also might believe that they understand the user's needs. And finally, they might necessarily believe that there is a lower cost solution that's possible. When you meet with your client, they're going to have a number of expectations for your project. The first might be a list of some desired features they would like to see in the project. The next might be a list of preliminary descriptions of objectives or constraints or some functions for the project.
The process of identifying and clarifying the team assignment is carried out by asking important questions. Open-ended questions work best. For example, what does success look like? Who is the user? What are the characteristics of the final product? Or what is the problem to be solved? A good technique to use is to ask your questions in different ways. Let's try this with the water bottle project. You might ask, what features do you want in your water bottle? Or what features don't you want? Here are 3 example water bottles. Which do you like, not like, and why? Or what features of these water bottles work or don't work for your intended user?
Another way to elaborate with the client is to ask questions that explore the motivation for the project. Example questions might include, why do you need a redesigned water bottle? Why did you request a new design? What is your motivation for a new design? What experience or feeling triggered the request for this project? To wrap up this section, there's a range of questions that you will need to ask your client at the onset of the project. So in preparation for meeting with your client, put together a list of 20 to 30 questions.
At the end of the Clarify Team Assignment step, your team should be able to reach consensus on the project aims. Also, they should be able to align the objectives of the project with the client. And finally, they should be able to assure the client that they understand the true mandate. And one simple way to accomplish that is to repeat back to the client exactly what you think the problem is.
Misunderstandings can arise if this process is not done properly. For example, you might solve the wrong design problem, or you might incompletely solve the problem put before you.
In summary, the user-client-designer triangle is a helpful way to organize the people involved in the design project.
And it's extremely important to make sure you fully understand the design problem at the outset of your project.